how blessed we are to have this silent tryst with the Spirit. Welcome this evening. We're so glad you joined us, and welcome to those on Facebook and Zoom. We're so glad we're here. And what do we know? We know that God is in this place.
Yes, let's do our opening song, God is in this place, sung by the amazing Margaret Owens.
Yes. Thank you so much. All right, let's pray. Stopping right in this moment and recognizing that breath right here, right now, that is the breath of God. God is breathing each and every one of us right where we are right in this moment. Our emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, and astral being is in perfect alignment with the only life that there is, God the Creator, God the good, God the magnificent. So we are blessing this service right here. Something wonderful is happening. We're blessing our beautiful Reverend Sydney. We're knowing that she's open, she's available, she's allowing Spirit to percolate in every cell of her being and bring us a word that opens our heart, our mind, our soul, and lets us say, yes, I am more than this. Yes, God is my life. Yes, something wonderful is happening because, yes, we are here together tonight celebrating the good of God. Thank you, beloved Mother, Father, God. And so it is, together we say, Amen. Please join me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And deliver us from evil, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Margaret.
You can spend your whole life building something from nothing. One storm can come and blow it all away. Build it anyway. You can chase a dream that seems so out of reach, and you know that it might never come your way. Dream it anyway. world's gone crazy, and it's hard to believe that tomorrow will be better than today. Believe it anyway. You can love someone with all your heart for all the right reasons. In a moment they may choose to walk away. Love them anyway. God is great, but sometimes life ain't good. And when I pray, it doesn't always turn out like I think it should. But I do it anyway. Yeah, I do it anyway. You can pour your soul out singing a song you believe in, that tomorrow they'll forget you ever sang. Sing it anyway. Yeah, sing it anyway. Yeah, I sing, I dream, I love anyway. Yeah.
Oh my God. How do you do that? That's one of my favorite songs. So. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm not echoing. Am I still echoing on here? Because we're trying to mute me, and I want to make sure that I'm not causing problems. The reason we're doing this, hi, by the way. We want to engage. We want to connect. We want to create community beyond the walls of what community looks like. And so we have people, often we have 30 to 40 to 50 or more people on a Wednesday night who are joining us on Zoom, on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live. And so we want to do more than just, I love you deeply, but I want to make sure that we engage them and bring them into the room as well. So that's what we're doing. So I'm just trying to see, did we fix the echo? Anybody? Did we fix it? Is it any better? No, it's not any better. Okay, well, so I'm going to close this up, or I'm going to give it to Natalie to see if she can fix it, because she fixes everything. She's my superhero. Okay, tonight's talk, change, chaos, and transformation. So that's an interesting topic, considering in the times in which we live. And I think that any times in which anybody has lived, those are the issues that people have to address, because change goes on, chaos goes on, and transformation. And about, 8 or 10 months ago, I talked about this thing called the wisdom pattern, which Richard Rohr, who was an American priest, had written about and talks about. And it's a really interesting theory, which is that we start off with order. We move into disorder, and then there's a sense of reorder. And what I've recognized is that what we call order now is mostly disorder all the time. right? Disorder, because what appeared to be in order now is calling for a new expression, a new paradigm, a new system to be born. And that's where that disorder happens. That's where that chaos happens, because the old systems simply don't work. An old idea doesn't work. You know, we used to think the world was flat. Guess what? It's not. And so the new idea created a lot of chaos when it came about. And it's the same thing with where we are in terms of our lives and in terms of our sociology and the way we connect with people. Everything from technology, as you can see tonight, to everything else in the world, we are looking at systems changing, systems breaking down, but they're not just breaking so that nothing else happens. It's because they're being replaced with new, emerging, magnificent ideas. Does that make sense? Okay, so the premise of this is that when we know it's a universal pattern of reality, and we know the full pattern, when we are knowing that there's a fuller pattern, that indwelling pattern of perfection, it allows us to let go of the order, trust the disorder, and then hardest of all sometimes, to allow and trust the new reorder. You know, a universal pattern like this can be found in all societies and all of creation. You know, we see it in the seasons of the year, stories of Scripture, the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, the rise and fall of civilizations, and in our own lives. But we understand this wisdom pattern. When we understand it, we can actually discover a greater context of a greater order. And this is a divine pattern of perfection that isn't about a finished performance or a static creation that is just there. We've done this, now we have order. It's about continually finding paths to love, new paths to evolve into wholeness, greater action, creative action, and peace. So one thing I love about our teaching, I mean, I love so many things about it, but New Thought, religious science, is that this spirituality isn't about observable spirituality. It's not about observing, gee, that's really neat to see that spiritual law works just like gravity. It's always consistent. It doesn't care who's using it. It's always going to be there. No, what we teach is practicable, participatory spirituality, that we get to challenge ourselves to live in full creative partnership with spiritual law. Okay, so if you are new to this teaching, that might sound a little weird, and that's okay. Just go with me on this. We can absolutely choose to sit idly by and say, isn't that interesting? Spiritual law is like electricity. It is like gravity. Or we can wake up and dive into this pool of God. And that's what this talk is about. Are we going to dive into this pool of God and remind ourselves continually that despite the appearances of what may look like chaos and disorder and fear and problems and whatever seems to be going on in the world out there, the world of the collective ideas and expression, that there is still this innate divinity that lives in and as each of us. And it doesn't just live there, but it creates who we are when we listen and connects us with everyone on this planet. We are one. We are one. You know, so as a minister here, I often get to hear people who are resistant and sometimes even resentful of anything that refers to that word, that charged, triggered word, the Bible. And I get it, because many of us grew up, the Bible was weaponized for a lot of us, right? And it didn't necessarily, it didn't end well. You know, if you grew up in a teaching or a church or a synagogue or a family that taught about hell and suffering and struggle, then I'm right there with you. I don't want any part of that. But I need everyone to know that the Bible is more than a book of information. It's a book of transformation. It's not just information, it's transformation. What we don't necessarily grow up with is understanding that it's actually a manual for transformation. It's how we move through stuff. Now, the Bible isn't the only wisdom text that we use here. It just happens to be the one that is most commonly used because it seems to be the language that most of us speak, right? Or we have some common understanding of it. We are called constantly to change, to grow, to evolve. We are called to release our oldness for boldness. And that's what transformation is about, to know that even though we might not be able to see what that next step is going to be in front of us, that we still get to stand boldly in this place and proclaim, I am one of and one with the divine. And if you don't like the word God, fine, go somewhere else with it. Call it the light, the infinite presence, the power, the spirit, Fred. Call it whatever works for you. It doesn't care what we call it, by the way. All that matters is that we listen to when we are called to a deeper understanding and a deeper use and collaboration with that presence and that power. You know, right now, so many people are in need of community, of connection, support, and the faith that comes from positive and productive, inspired action. So I think about this particularly when we see how much, how binary the world is right now, where people tend to say, you're right, you're wrong, or I'm right, you're wrong. Left, right, that's left, right, okay. Red, blue, whatever it is, and we galvanize and we have a need for an enemy, because if we can have an enemy, then we can be justified. We can be justified. And we don't have to listen to reason. We don't have to consider other ways, other viewpoints. We can just be justified, or we can anchor in that and say, yep, that's how it is, that's how it is, whether it is or it isn't. You know, everything in the Bible is a roadmap to understanding who we are and what is going on within us at any given time. And by the way, every given time, because every person that's in there is a part of us. Every event is something that happens to us and as us. So if you heard Dr. Mark on Sunday, he talked about something that I thought was very cool. He said that as a teacher, he has always advised his ministerial students to choose at least one Bible story that they resonate with, that they can work with, and that they can call on whenever they're trying to or wanting to illustrate a point of spiritual growth. Now, he talked about his favorite, which is the return of the prodigal. And that's really, really relevant because, you know, when we stray away from the truth of our being and we wind up leaning into the world rather than leaning into our own spiritual connection with God, with the divine, then we find ourselves lacking. We are not sourced by something greater than we are. And so we are subject to the winds of opinion, of change, of fear, of whatever the big monstrous idea is that the world is holding out. And so we find ourselves subject to that until we return to source. And that's what that story is about. I think it's a really rich story. But the one that I go to is David and Goliath. Because I think that right now a lot of us have Goliaths. We've got these big monsters that we believe are the enemy, that we are fighting, that we are trying to either manage or to slay that dragon, whatever form it takes for us. And it might be in the form of a family situation that's going on. It might be a physical situation that's going on. It might be a financial one, a job one, political, our country, right? That we have this big Goliath. Okay, so now let me just refresh. Let me go back. Goliath was a big monster. The Dead Sea Scrolls record his height as 4 cubits and a span. Now, that's Bible math. I don't do Bible math. I don't do minister math. But in general terms, he was about 7 feet tall. So he's a big guy, right? He was just a really, really big guy. And he was wearing lots and lots of armor. So he probably looked like a transformer. You know, he just had all this stuff all over him. Now, David, on the other hand, was not 7 feet tall. He was probably about 4'10". I'm not just making it up. I actually Googled a lot of this stuff. So while he was well over the height restriction for Oz and Munchkin Land, he wasn't Dwayne the Rock either. So Goliath was wreaking havoc on the Israelites. The Philistines would trot him out every morning and attack, and Goliath would say horrible things about the Israelites, about who they were and their God. You know, your mother wears army boots, your God wears army boots, whatever it is. And they were under attack constantly. Now, they were under attack for 40 days. In the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, metaphysically, in fact, it doesn't even have to be in the Bible, but metaphysically, the number 40 means as long as it takes. As long as it takes. So Jesus was in the desert 40 days. Noah out on the water 40 days. All of these legends. So 40 days that they had to put up with this nonsense until finally they decided that was enough. Because that's how long it took. Can you imagine? Oh, and by the way, the Jews wandered the desert for 40 years. That's how long it took. That is the allegory. It takes as long as it takes. So David had had enough, and he begged King Saul to let him go battle this giant and to silence him. And so Saul said, okay, and he dressed him in armor so he wouldn't face Goliath physically unprotected and vulnerable. So this is where it really gets fun. David had like this, he had all of this stuff, chainmail and, the whatever it was that they wore in those days. And he had this big headpiece on, and it kept falling in his face so he couldn't see. I like to think of him in like some sort of bizarre Carmen Miranda fruit thing where the grapes and the bananas are dangling over, because they didn't have a lot of metallurgy in those days. So whatever it was that they could put to shield him. But so the bananas and the fruit got in his way. He couldn't see. It was obstructing his vision. His spiritual vision was distracted by the physical vision. So let's break that down. Goliath represents the lies, the fears, the massive fears we are presented with by conditions, experiences, the material world of effects. So if there's an experience of your life right now that seems overwhelming and prepossessing, it's a Goliath for you. It may very well be your Goliath. So you can think of Goliath as rumors, gossip, CNN, commercials for cold and flu season. You know the drill. All of that stuff that we tend to buy into, particularly when we have not been strengthening our spiritual connection and our spiritual resolve and our awareness of who and what we are as divine creations of spirit, right? It's easy to feel those slings and arrows because that big Goliath tends to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So Goliath represents our beliefs in an enemy, and that's very important. Goliath represents and symbolizes our need for an enemy, our need for an enemy. When we have an enemy, it's very convenient. We can argue, we can fight, we can blame, and we can claim helplessness because an enemy or a perpetrator or a persecutor allows us to maintain our victim status. So it allows us to not have to make big choices and big changes in our lives. We can stay in that chaos. We can stay in limitation, which is painful, but it's really familiar, right? This is why we tend to stay in dysfunction. It's really, really painful, but we know what to expect. And that's the nature of dysfunction. That's the nature of that. And so we stay there and we claim victim. And not to say that there aren't experiences that we go through that are desperately painful and desperately hard and challenging, but it still is incumbent upon us to know that that which is within us is absolutely greater than that which we are going through, okay? So when we believe, if I believe I'm a victim, I get a payoff from it. It allows me to not only take responsibility and to have an enemy, but I also get to hold out hope to be rescued by a hero, right? I'm going to be rescued by a hero. So helpless and needy are the byproducts of wanting to have a hero. And we love to have a hero in this society. We love to have a hero. I mean, you can watch commercials about politics, about deodorant, about cosmetics, about diet aids, whatever it is, and the hero is that thing or that product or that person, and there's a lot of power and energy and charisma around that, right? But here's the thing, and we call it, by the way, it's called the drama triangle. There's an actual legit term for this. We have the victim, the perpetrator, and the hero. All of these sides of this triangle rely on each other. They justify each other, and they need each other. But the moment we become aware that we might have been participating in this, thus requiring a hero, thus requiring a persecutor, or being a persecutor. And we all play these roles, by the way, for each other and ourselves. So it's not just, I've been assigned the role of victim and I'll never be a perpetrator. Believe me, I have been a perpetrator. We can all be, and I've been a hero. I'm a mom. Of course I'm going to be a hero. You kidding me? But the moment we become conscious of this, we can be aware and awake and step out of that cycle, that drama triangle cycle, and return to the knowing and the power that we have. When we commit to being persecuted against, perpetrated against, and helpless to change our thinking about who we are, we lose our spiritual integrity. And this is part of the way that I teach the 4 agreements. And it's really interesting because this has come up 3 times just today. And it came up several times yesterday. So I know that this is present for, at least for me, because when I teach the 4 agreements, the very first thing in there is about being impeccable with your word. And I go beyond the idea that it's about being impeccable with the commitments you make. Like, if I say I'm going to be there at 4 o'clock, be there at 4 o'clock. It's about being impeccable with the spiritual word of who we are. It's that what the Greeks would call the logos, L-O-G-O-S, the logos of who we are, because it is the word. In the beginning was the word, and the word was God, and the word was with God. And we are in that. We live as that word of God, and that word, that power, that presence is with us. Now, again, let's move away from a God of personality to a God of presence. Good on demand, right? Glory on demand. Generosity on demand. G-O-D. Take it away from personality, but God as presence, as that energy that has created and sustained all life. So let's go back to our story. David is the part of us that remembers his or her innate divinity. The David part of us stands clear and strong in the presence of God, in, as, and through him or herself, and faces the lies and fears with truth. There is one life. That life is God. That life is my life. That life is perfect. It is clear. It is fully active, fully present. It is all I am. It is all you are. That is the truth. David, in his fruit basket helmet, couldn't see with spiritual vision. The armor he was wearing distracted him for a moment into thinking he was vulnerable. He was going to be a victim, right? He was vulnerable to attack. And the effects of the giant-sized lies and beliefs and fears were coming at him. He made a choice to not buy into that. He made a choice. And again, this is the allegory. It's the symbol. And this is what matters for us. Whether or not David ever lived, to me that is so not important. But the story is so powerful because it's the archetype about standing in truth. He took off all of his armor and stood unafraid, vulnerable, protected only by God. He was in his clothes, and that was it. Protected by God only. So without the effects of the world, without the opinions of the world, without the judgments of the world, without the ego of the world, he stood there in that place as the vulnerable being, knowing that God was all he needed to know, that he was and is that presence, which is the lesson for you and me. He had one weapon. Now this is really cool. It was a sling. Like a slingshot, with a little bag, a little cloth bag containing 5 stones. Metaphysically, stones symbolize spiritual truths. They symbolize the solid strength of spiritual truth. So clothed only in the armor of God, David slung 1 stone, which hit Goliath in the head, right here, the center of intellect. So he presented intellect, the reasoning mind, the ego, the overthinking mind with spiritual truth, with solid spiritual truth, and it destroyed Goliath. So when we present our solid spiritual truth to that which is hanging out in us, that says you need to be afraid of cold and flu. You need to be afraid of this. You need to worry about this, or this person's coming after you, or that's coming after you, or this party's going to do that to your party. Whatever it is, when we stand fully aligned in God, in spirit, and declare the truth, then all of that dissolves. It has no power. It is the belief that we have been holding, but we present solid truth. And that's what those stones are. That's what that is. You know, our greatest challenge some days is that we have to stand in the midst of the fears and the charismatic nonsense of the world and to remember who we are. Sometimes that's darn hard. We have to remember that high and holy spiritual truth of our being. You and I don't have to slay anything other than our commitment to being distracted and seduced by the world of popular thinking and materialism. That's what we have to slay. We have to slay that commitment to being distracted and to be seduced. And it's very seductive. It's just really, really entertaining to move over into this world of opinion and messy thinking and chaos, right? But the thing is, we can't just ohm our way into transformation. You know, this requires putting some, as we would say, feet on our prayers. We have to dedicate ourselves to standing in the integrity and the impeccability of our word. That word is who we are and what we are as divine beings. So just think for a moment, who or what is your giant? What is your Goliath? What is your Goliath that has been standing before you, intimidating you or scaring you, or that thing which you haven't wanted to look at because it's that scary, and the possibility of what it actually might be can be very, very threatening, right? How much power are you giving to that? How much attention are you giving to that? You know, are you going to be rescued by God, Jesus, Superman, the next president, someone else? How much power are you giving to your position as not having the agency to know who you are as a spiritual being? Inspired action is required of us. It's required of us this time in this place as we stand in alignment with our brothers and our sisters of color, of different gender orientation, of economic insecurity, or with those who do not yet have a voice. Jesus hung out with the homeless, the hookers. He fed people. He had to beg for a place to stay. He was a spiritual activist. Jesus was a spiritual activist because he acted not from a political belief, not from a social belief, but from a humanity belief. What is the humanity here that we are being called on to support, to be an ally for, and to love? One of my friends is David Alexander, who is head of the church, the CSL in Atlanta. And his blog today just blew me away, so I'm going to read part of it to you. Spiritual folks like to respond with shining love and light. And while I'm a positive thinker and I ground my practice in teaching of oneness, sometimes this response really ticks me off. When dealing with subjects of racism embedded in this country for 400 years and systemic discrimination entrenched in our institutions, Care Bear theology isn't going to cut it. Care Bear theology isn't going to cut it. And I think we think that there's a passivity we must take. The passivity happens when we are meditating, when we are praying. But then there's the activity. You know, it's the yin and yang. There's a balance that must take place. And as we really, truly listen for who we are, who are we to be in this, and then what are we to do, then we get to stand as those people who represent humanity, who represent love, who represent spiritual truth, who don't have to have an enemy, who don't have to fight an enemy, and yet we can stand in the truth that all life is sacred, and that we're here for all beings everywhere. I think people kind of laugh at New Thoughters because we talk a lot about oneness. They think that's not very humble, and I'm good with that. I don't have any argument with anybody. But what I loved from what David also said today was, what if the most humbling thing we can do is to claim our oneness with God? Not because we are supposed to think of ourselves as meek and small, but because being the light is a big responsibility. I won't use the word he used. Perhaps we have taken a too self-centered approach. What if accepting our light was not about how much good or success or abundance, health, and happiness we could manifest for ourselves, but rather how much good we could do in the world once we knew who we really were? And he goes on to talk about being light keepers, about being those people who shine the light. That's a fierceness. That's a power. And it takes courage. It takes commitment. It takes conviction. You and I are the light. We are that. And it takes strength and dedication to say, yes, I'm going to be the light for truth. I'm going to shine. When I encounter something that is wrong or there's toxic behavior, I'm going to shine. I'm going to be the truth in that. I'm going to know the truth in that. Now, it doesn't mean you have to put yourself in physical danger, although some people would. You don't have to. But what I want you to know is that if there's anything that resonates within you, would you please heal that? Would you please be willing to look at it and say, okay, I am willing to know the truth, that I am whole, I am not to be attacked. There is enough for everybody. No one can take anything from me because I am here by divine right of consciousness, and life is here to support each and every one of us. You know, light that dispels the darkness is fierce. Light that exposes hate and racism and toxic narcissism is a blinding and all-encompassing light. We get to shine. We get to shine. And again, this is about honoring our shared humanity, our shared divinity. This is not about taking a side with a political view. This is that we are here as brothers and sisters. We are here as spiritual family. Real light workers disrupt the narratives. Real light workers are willing to upset their own comforts and privileges to help others. Real light workers have battle scars from the fight for justice. So we need to stop looking for our heroes and assigning victims, because that's just a distraction from the truth. We can begin to take charge right here and right now and know the truth, that we are the light. We are the light workers, and we're here to shine together. And you know, when I join with you, we just doubled it. And when I shine with all of you, oh my goodness, we are light. We are light that cannot be denied, cannot be hid in any form of darkness, because it is standing in the truth, that one little stone of truth. So I'm going to invite you to remember that. And we've got some time. I want to ask if there are questions or comments that I can respond to, first from people in the room, and then I'm going to ask for some Zoom and Facebook response, and I might have made people uncomfortable, and I'm good with that too. So anybody here? Yes, Bashira.
Yes, I wanted to know if you had any recommendations, if you've had a Goliath that's like been working on you and with you for like 20 years, how could you begin to unearth the belief system that you've been, kind of feeding into for so long?
Right. So for those of you who are online, if you're streaming, she asks, what do you do if you've got a belief system, you've got a Goliath that might have been part of your experience or your perception for the last 20 years or more? How do you begin to disarm that? How do you begin to disempower that and to no longer live in reaction and according to that? And the first thing I would say is that to look at, perhaps go back to when that first began, and just observe, what were you going through? What was happening at that time? And is it represented by someone or something? And just get clear on that. Then I would also ask you to look at, is there something about this that is benefiting me? Is there a gift, as perverted as that sounds, is there a gift in being restricted? Is it keeping me from stepping into my own full power? Then finally, am I willing to forgive? And forgiveness is like the fast track. Whether you get those answers or not, whether you get those answers or not, that you can move into a space of forgiveness. And remember, forgiveness does not, it doesn't say that somebody doesn't have accountability or responsibility. It's just that you are no longer responsibility for meting out justice. You don't have to keep score about them. It's no longer your job. You have handed it off, okay? You have outsourced their karma. Outsource the karma and go to a place of, this is not mine. I am willing to be forgiving and to know the truth about who I am. And when you focus so much on your own light and really remind yourself, even when it wants to come crowding back in, little by little, that thought that Goliath gets smaller and smaller. And the other thing is to work with a practitioner. We have those people here who are really, really good at helping you to identify and to disempower the beliefs that are going on and to create a new one that will absolutely guide your light in integrity and impeccability. Does that help? Okay. Anything from Zoom?
No question, just a comment.
Okay.
It says, I'm getting so much comfort from Reverend Sydney's talk tonight. I will be listening to this again. Thank you, Sydney, your biggest Portland fan.
Kaja, it's one of my girlfriends in Portland. So she likes me. She really, really likes me. Thank you, Kaja. She's part of a congregation I was a part of for about 13 years. So I'm really honored that people are watching from other places. Do we have any Facebook comments or questions? Nothing, okay. So, crickets, right? Okay. Is there anything, are we complete here? Is there a question or a comment, or did I, again, the job of ministry is to comfort to the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. So if I've afflicted you, I'd like to know that too. Yes?
Sometimes when you're, let's say you have a belief, you're one with God, you're in a really good spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're believing and you're attempting to see manifestation come through.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's like you're with it.
Right.
And then you have an opportunity and it falls flat.
Okay.
You have another opportunity and you're in the same place. This has got to be, and then it falls flat.
Okay.
I know it's like redundant. Like, what am I doing?
Okay. So the issue is getting right up to that good, and then it dissolves. Getting right up to what's going to be the demonstration. You think it's there, and then it falls apart. It falls apart. It falls apart. So the responsibility you have isn't about making it happen. That is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to remember who you are and to choose to know who you're going to be in this. And is it going to define who you are? And yet, when it happens over and over, I get it. It can be so disheartening and so frustrating and disappointing. And when we can begin to identify our part in it, perhaps a belief that is operating under here, like at this level, then we can begin to, once again, disempower and dissolve that belief and move into a stronger place. This is another practitioner kind of thing. This is what's so powerful about working with a practitioner, is that the study and practice for so many years has been about knowing the truth about who and what you are. A practitioner, whether they know you or not, in a social setting or in a church setting, they have no opinion. They have no judgment. The only thing they are called to do is recognize that you are the fulfillment of the divine. And so what is it that might be operating in your beliefs or your perceptions that is causing you to experience yourself in a way that limits you or that restricts you? Do you have any insights on this? Because you're good at this. Nothing. Okay, deer in the headlights over here, so you don't have to. It's all right. Yes.
No, it's all just by going deeper and deeper and
Yeah.
deeper. It's like peeling the onion. So I feel great now, and everything's coming to a perfect head, and then you peel something else off that needs to be healed, and then you peel something else off that needs to be healed. So it's always a process.
Yeah, yeah. And so what Liz has said, if you are one of our live streamers, it's about peeling that onion and getting to the deeper belief. It's always, and we do that all the time. Those of us who have been in this teaching for years and years, we're still doing this, and we do it daily. I can find myself saying, wow, what is going on in my consciousness? What is going on in my thinking? And here's the other thing, that it's coming up now, which means you're ready. You're ready to work with it. If it's coming up and you're noticing it, it means you have the tools, you have the capacity, you have the support system to transform whatever that is in order to move beyond it into a greater experience of yourself. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, all right. We can talk more about this if you like. Yeah, Adam.
A few weeks ago, you were talking about to build self-esteem, you do esteemable acts.
Right, right.
And how we can build our esteem by doing esteemable things to
Yeah.
get the Goliath.
That's great. So what Adam's asking about, something I had said a few weeks ago, that we build esteem by performing esteemable acts. It's not about looking for approval in the world, but what it is about is, once again, acting within the impeccability of your word to be of service, to be of love, to be of authentic presence. And so what are the ways that we can bring that those esteemable behaviors, those acts into this place of dealing with the Goliath, right? So it's another one of those, the more we attend to our spiritual nature, the less we have to attend to the Goliaths out here. The more we attend to who we are as divine beings and practice recognizing it in ourselves and other people, the less need we're going to have for an enemy or a hero or any sort of validation. And the big part of that, this is the interesting thing, which is a talk for later, but it's about standing in service. I will never forget, years ago, hearing Dr. Mark speak at Asilomar, and he talked about this same thing. He said, many of us believe that we have to get healed and then go out and be of service. He said, we've got the order wrong. We need to be of service now, because that's where that healing will come from. That's when our wholeness is revealed, when we stand in service and support. And I don't mean being the slave to somebody. I don't mean that at all. I mean being honestly, authentically looking for ways that you can up-level the expression of love in the world. Do I need to open the door for that woman? Is she having a problem with her groceries? Is this person at Costco is seeming to be in a hurry and need to go in front of me? You know what service looks like. One of the things we do here is we have a homeless ministry, and we are expanding it. We are expanding it big time. And it is so powerfully rewarding to be able to feed people who are experiencing hunger, or they are houseless, they're challenged, whatever that is. And so and is it selfish to enjoy serving others? In the most healthy way possible, yes. Be selfish. Enjoy serving others, because that's an esteemable act. That's okay. I have no judgment on that. If your ego gets bathed in that, if your soul gets bathed in serving other people and standing up for them, go for it. Go for it, because underneath all of that, I know the wholeness is going to find its way to be revealed and to guide you into your own sense of greater wholeness and knowing. So, are we complete? We're complete. Okay, let's do a quick prayer, and then we'll finish out the service. All righty then. Together, we bless those Goliaths, knowing that they have only shown up for us to show us that we are ready to grow, we are ready to evolve, we are ready to move into a new order, a new possibility, a new birth. How wonderful to bless those Goliaths and to stand before what has looked like something big and to declare, I know the truth about you. You are just simply love in drag. and to declare that that is really, really, you can't hide from me, God. You are right here and right now, showing up so that I might know myself as more divine, as more connected, as more loving. So in this time here, we bless those Goliaths, knowing that they don't have the power. They're not real. There is more to them, and that each of them can be a doorway, a midwifing into our own spiritual depths, our joy, our wholeness, our peace. And I know for each of us that as we are willing to embrace those agents of chaos, those Goliaths, they dissolve into the nothingness, and we recognize that what remains is connection, is love, is peace. So as we do that for ourselves, I know that we do this for the world. We do this for our country. We bless this country and the leaders, knowing that there is a divine intention greater than any other service intention, and that it transcends that surface intention because it is the intention of Spirit to connect us. It is the divine greater pattern unfolding. And so I know that it supersedes anything else, and that we are absolutely blessed with each other. That nothing and no one can stand in the way of that, including me, including anyone on this planet, that God is greater than all of it. So yes, we love anyway. Yes, we bless anyway. Yes, we sing that song anyway. We do that. We forgive anyway. Because that is our estimable act. That is our role. We are blessed, and that we recognize now that whatever is going on is simply a signpost back to ourselves, back to God, back to the truth, back to the infinite potentiality which resides within us, seeking expression and celebration. So I bless everyone here, and I bless this church. I bless all churches, all paths to God, all ashrams, all synagogues, mosques, temples, all paths to God. For truly we are one of and one with the divine. And that is the only truth. We let the rest go. We surrender the armor, and we stand in the greater order, that pattern of perfection, and say, yep, this too is good, this too is God. And so it is. Together we say, amen. So, right now we are going to receive your tithes and your love offerings. Do we have someone bringing a basket, or are we just going to do this online tonight? Online and in the box in the back. That's totally fine. All right. So, would you take your offering and hold it to your heart, in your hand, blessing it, blessing it, blessing it, and say with me, from the love of pure spirit within me, I bless this gift. I send it forth to heal and bless and prosper. It is evidence of my faith and belief. It does good work in the world and returns to me multiplied abundantly.
Let
Thank you, Maestro Sam. Thank you, Reverend Sydney. Lovely, lovely, lovely. All right, we have a few announcements for you right now. Of course, it may make it easy to make donations here. You can text to give, or we have a QR code on the back of your program. Also, you can go to NHCRS.org to give. And also, we have Prayer for a Practitioner that's available in person and on Zoom. So if you're on Facebook, hop over to Zoom, get your 1-minute miracle tonight. Next Wednesday, we have Reverend Sydney again, Meditation 650, services at 7 o'clock, and her topic is Mind Your Own Business. Grief support, this Sunday, 1 o'clock on Zoom, we have Carol Winokur offering grief support for all those who are struggling with something right now. It's a great opportunity to unload your burden. Also, we have with Gail Palat, Christmas Giving Tree event. We adopt North Valley Caring Services. We adopt the children there. We give gifts. You can provide gifts. You can also show up wrapping those gifts and also just show up to help pass them out. It's a wonderful opportunity to be of service. And that will be on December 15th. And any kind of gift is appropriate, and we're taking those by December 4th. Ernie's Cafe 50s dinner with Dr. Mark. It's this Friday, 7 o'clock. Join us for an upscale 50s dinner. Wear your leather jackets, your poodle skirts, and we'll be dancing, dancing, dancing. Tickets are $50 and available online. And also, we're having a Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving. How wonderful. At 2 p.m., turkey, all the fixings, come out, commune with your community, have a wonderful time. You can sign up on the patio, or you can call the church office to save your seat. We have Zoom virtual patio before and after services. We have Zoom meditation every morning at 7:55 a.m. to 8:15 a.m. And everything you need to know, truly anything, is at NHCRS.org. Thank you. Peace out, y'all.
And I want to tell you about that Thanksgiving dinner. It's our gift to you. Actually, it's one of our members who has underwritten it because the determination and the intention is that we all get to be together on Thanksgiving. But if you want to bring pies or your favorite recipes, if you have hors d'oeuvres or side dishes that you like, because we get turkeys and some sides with them, but if you have stuff that you want to share, oh my goodness, please bring it. You know, this is the thing about North Hollywood. Come for the teaching, you'll stay for the food. I want to thank Mary Catherine O'Hart, who's been holding the high watch for us at home. Our Zoom support tonight was Mark Kroll and Diane Satterley. Lights and sound, Adam Keshen. Greeter, thank you, yes. Our greeter and usher, I believe Deborah Lockett was back there. Our sanctuary media team, Doreen Remo, Blair Thompson. Blair's been doing this at home. Brenda Jordan and Nikki Zavara, right? Margaret Owens at margaretowens.com. And that is truly one of my favorite songs. Next time, do God's Will. Do you know that one? Oh, we have to talk, sister. Okay. Sam Krieger, as always, thank you. And Liz Racy, when I grow up, I want to be you. Thank you very much. And I am Reverend Sydney. Let's just do a quick benediction and get out of here, shall we? All right. So we just join together one more time in the knowing that right where we are, God is and all is well. And that power and that presence is guiding us. It is blessing us. It is that which is the truth of who and what we are. So knowing that this light protects us, surrounds us, and fills us, I know that nothing can touch us but the direct action of God, and that is love. That is the truth. I know it, and God knows it, and I know that I know it. And so it is. Amen. Thank you all.
Let's all stand and sing Blessed Always one more time, led by the wonderful Margaret.